Hi guys, as you can see, I have my little Patrick Ta clippies in today because I am testing out the Patrick Ta foundation, but that is not what today's video is about. This just arrived an hour ago. I got the new Hourglass Ambient Lighting Lotus Palette. It's the number 3 palette, but this is absolutely stunning. Oh my gosh, like I really could stare at this all friggin' day. We'll do some quick swatches, but then I will also have an entire section on just comparing to my snake palette and my tiger palette. So comment down below, let me know if you picked this one up, and then also be sure to subscribe because I also have a bunch of other stuff that I've picked up. Just some quick things. This is my third Hourglass palette. It is $90. This is the second year that I've had to pay $90. I believe the first year was either, and I'll put it somewhere here, it was either $80 or $85. Now it's $90. So I definitely did not pay less than $80 for sure. And just to run down memory lane, I'm going to show you the other palettes that I have. So my very first palette was the Tiger palette back in 2022. So just so you know, this is their finishing powder, which is Trancendant Light, which I actually use as a bronzer. Then we have another highlighter here, Brilliant Glow, a blush called Burnished Glow, which is like your sort of orangey copper clay sort of a color, another highlighter, and another blush. These are the only two blushes right here. And then came along the snake palette, but I couldn't look at a snake every time I opened my drawer. So I actually got the leopard case. So we have here Radiant Light as the finishing powder, Coral Haze as a blush, Infinite Strobe as the highlighter, Sunbeam as a blush, Mystic Flush as a blush, and Solar Bronze as the powder. Now hopefully you can see this bronzer I really liked. I was able to use it, which was great. And then you have these 3 shades as your blushes. It's like we're getting there, you know. I found that I wasn't using them as much as I could be. Then I saw the swatches for Lotus. I am excited for this one. Why? Because Eternal Light is right here, and that's the one that I use as a finishing powder. Eternal Light right here. Then we have Bronze Heat as a bronzer, and it does look like a pretty deep bronzer, so I'm happy about that. 2 highlighters right here, and then we have our 2 blushes. So here's Gilded Strobe, and here is Radiant Rose. So again, both of them are highlighters. There we are. Whoa, look at that. That's a swatch right there. And this is Desert Flush and Red O. Woo, that's pretty. That's really pretty. I don't know how good Desert Flush is going to look on my skin tone. It's not bad, but I already know that Eternal Light will work for me because I use that as my finishing powder. And then this is our bronzer. Eternal Light, our finishing powder, and Bronze Heat. So not bad, not bad at all. As part of my freebies, I did get the Hourglass translucent setting powder. So I'm going to use my dual-ended brush, Hourglass brush. I really love Hourglass products. It's a little crazy for someone who maybe 3 years ago didn't have anything from them. I love their foundation. I love the new setting powder that just came out. I like the idea of these, you know, 6-pan palettes. So let's go ahead and finally get into our Lotus palette. We have our double-ended lighting edit brush and using the round brush, we'll go in with our bronzer. Let's see. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's really nice. I can see it. And if I can see it with my tan, I'll be able to see it in like a month or two when this tan is gone. So that's good. I can see. Can you guys see it? I hope you guys can see it. And this natural light is not. See? That's really nice. That's nice. Okay. Tap, tap. Yep, I see it. It's showing up. I mean, at this rate, that's all we can hope for, is for it to just show up. The center. Okay, I think that looks good. I think I want to walk on the wild side today and use red. Oh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Tap off a lot of that still. Oh gosh. Okay. Here we go. Just. Oh, that's pretty. Let's just put some on this side so it's not all. Okay. Oh, that's pretty, and that blended really nicely. Like, I thought that was gonna look insane, and it keeps sort of diffusing and blending out. That's really nice. What do you think? I figure since I'm using red O, we'll go ahead and use the Radiant Rose. Oh, can you see it? There we go. The Radiant Rose highlighter. My reference. Oh. Oh, that's. Wow. Okay, let's put a little up here. This might be the first palette that I'm like, oh, I'll use all of these. So as far as the blush, the bronzer, the highlighter in the Lotus palette, I will say I really love it. This is just immediate first impressions. I do really love the colors. I love the bronzer. Sometimes that's like the hardest thing to get for us is, you know, a good bronzer. I do like how it looks on my skin, and if it looks good now while I'm a little bit on the darker side, then I have hopes for when I lose my tan. But I am going to come back and wear this again because I haven't had a chance to do comparison swatches. I will be back. So one thing we're going to do differently today is we're going to try out Desert Flush. So it's this one right here. I do see it. I think it'll be a good winter blush, but like a everyday going to my son's hockey game type. It reminds me of She's So LA by Patrick Ta. So, cleaned my brush, and let's go in with Red Zero, very pigmented. And just kind of make sure this is nice and blended. Yeah, I see this one too. It's very light. It's not ashy though. I will say, this is not ashy. It's just a very light rose color blush. Whereas you're getting red over here. Let's use Gilded Strobe on one side. I don't usually use this brush, but it's what I have next to me. That's very pretty. Let's do Radiant Rose highlighter. Ooh. You see this? Like, oh, the worst. Okay, so let's go ahead and break down all things Hourglass and these powders. So I went back to see when they started the 6-pan palette, because I started having a whole lot of feels when I started looking at the swatches from not only Lotus, but the Tiger and Leopard palette that I have. In 2014, they launched the Trio palette, which I have number 3. It took them quite some time to get to number 3, but 2014 is when they had the original. And then from 2015 on, they launched the 6-pan palettes, and I will put each of them here with the name if you're interested, but they were $80 back in 2015, and then of course went up to $85 and now $90. And I am going to take you through some swatches, and again, all of my notes, I have my computer here, but as we keep going through each year, you're going to see why in 2022 I took the leap with the Tiger palette. Let's go ahead and get into the swatches. So first, I'm going to insert some pictures I took of the Lotus palette. You know, I did some quick swatches in the beginning of this video, but these are definitely well lit, better lit swatches of the Lotus palette. I did not think that that Desert Flush color was going to look good on me. I'm not sure how this color is gonna fare if I'm NC 50 and you're NC 60, 65. I don't know how that's gonna look, but you know, which is why I am in my feels, but we'll get into that in a second. So I do really love the palette. I think I would give this palette a solid 8.5 for the simple fact that these colors are still not, like, I'm not the deepest shade out there. I'm not. And someone who is darker than me is still gonna have trouble with this palette. There really should be 4 palettes that come out. There needs to be 1 more palette after this shade range. It's gotten better, but it's still not good enough. So I don't know if you remember that line in Sister Act 2 where she's like, it was good for what it was, but it wasn't all that. Take a look at the swatches of my current collection. So the first 3 that you'll see are Eternal Light. That is the powder that I use as an all-over finishing powder. Not a setting powder, but an all-over face finishing powder. For whatever reason, that first swatch is my Eternal Light single. It's just a bit more golden-y, a little bit darker than the Eternal Light powder that I have in my Trio and now in my 6-pan palette. So I don't know what that's about. And then of course I did swatch Trancendant Light. I have it in the Trio and in the Leopard palette. They look pretty much identical, which is a good thing. Then lastly, I did swatch the bronzer shades from the Leopard palette and then the Lotus palette. So the second to last shade that you're seeing there is Solar Bronze from the Leopard palette, and honestly, Solar Bronze looks pretty much identical to Trancendant Light, which I already have in the Tiger palette and in my Trio palette, my 3-pan palette. Excellent shade, as you can see, is from the Lotus palette, and that's Bronze Heat. That is a great brown bronzer shade. It works amazing for me right now. As far as my issue with Hourglass now, I have just recently started diving into Hourglass. Every single thing I've tried so far I have loved. I really have. And I thought I was in love with the other two palettes. If you would have asked me a month ago how I felt about my Leopard and Tiger palette, I would have told you that I like them. I love them. I haven't decluttered them, and I was going to keep them forever and ever, amen, right? But unfortunately, when you know better, you do better, right? It's been many years. It's been about 6 years of Hourglass creating these 6-pan palettes and just not being very inclusive. And it's really, I don't want to even say it's sad. It's very baffling to me because I don't understand why you're making foundation shades for people who are of a deeper complexion, and yet they can't use your limited edition items. And these are holiday palettes too, so it just feels like, you know, the holiday spirit, Christmas spirit. It's a great treat to yourself, to someone else, so I don't understand. And then they also had other palettes that they started to create too, the 4-pan palette, multiple 4-pans, multiple 3-pans. And so once it came to the Tiger palette, because of that wonderful bronzer shade, I thought this was gonna work for me, but it just has too many just really shimmery shades. Like these are 3, oh, there we go. These are 3 of the shades. Maybe that'll work. You know, like, you see? That's 3 of them. And then you have 2 blushes that kind of sort of work. And then the Leopard palette, let's get into that a little bit better, but this was supposed to be for deeper skin tones, right? You have this bronzer here, which is Solar Bronze, a decent bronzer. It looks identical to Trancendant Light, like we said, but then you have Radiant Light as the finishing powder. So what do you mean finishing powder? Like as an all over finishing powder? Because this is what Radiant Light looks like. I'm not putting that all over my face. All over? Maybe under the eye, maybe, but I personally would not because it has glitter. I'm just telling you how I would use them, right? So this one does have 3 blushes that I think are a lot better. So there you are, 3. If I'm being honest with myself, I'd probably only use 2 of them, right? And use those 2. And the bronzer, the highlighter here. So I would use 2 blushes, a highlighter, and the bronzer. So that's 4 shades, so we're getting better. Even the highlighters are better this time around too. And here's the, there, can we do that? Yeah, they just have more body to them. They really do. There are the 2 highlighters right there. They just have more like weight to them. So there's that. So at the end of the day, would I recommend specifically the Lotus palette to you to purchase at full price? If you're able to, yes. If you are my skin tone, maybe even a little bit deeper, can you get away with it? I think so, me personally. Is this probably the most melanin friendly 6-pan palette that Hourglass has created? Yes. The I guess what is bugging me a little bit, and even like is making this review like awkward, is like, okay, but why couldn't we have done this sooner? I will definitely use this palette way more. Oh, I can finally take this off. Take it off. There we go. I will definitely use this palette way more than my others. The only issue is that I don't think I'm gonna take this to travel because these are very fragile, very soft powder, so you want to be careful with putting them like in your work bag or in your luggage. If you're rouge or you know someone who's rouge, this drops down from $90 to $72, which I feel like, all right, $72 for 6, you know, different powders is a really good steal. That works out to be about $8.57 per gram. The best value though per gram is this trio. This is $69. If you're able to get this at 20% off, you're looking at a little over $6, so it ends up being $55.20 with 20% off. So this is really good if you don't want to invest in these 6-pan palettes. Excuse me. I really love this palette. Again, I use this as an all-over face powder, a bronzer, and a highlighter. So I'm just gonna make the announcement here and now, and I'm gonna say it to you so you guys can hold me to it. This is probably gonna be the last 6-pan palette that I purchase because I don't see how they'll have another palette that will be better suited for my skin tone. It literally has my face powder. It has a bronzer that I could most definitely use. It has at minimum one blush that I could use, although like I said, I'm liking this over here. So 2 blushes, 2 highlighters. What more do I need? And I don't need to collect $90 face palettes that I'm only going to use X amount of times a year. So although I am going to get a lot of use out of this palette, I love this particular cover as well. I love the other 2, I love the big cats, but this one just really speaks to me. All in all, I just truly hope that, especially with such an expensive purchase, it's $90. I treated myself to it, but my God, like, you do not need to purchase something like this. It's not that serious. And I just really hope that you found this video at least somewhat informative. Let me know down below, did you purchase it? Did you not, for whatever reason? Did you find this helpful? Because I don't mind doing like extensive price breakdowns and swatches and things like that. I actually find it a lot of fun. And with that, if there's anything that I forgot or wanted to mention after the fact, I will leave it in the description box, so be sure to check that out. I hope you are taking care of yourself, and I hope you are having a wonderful day, evening, whenever you are watching this. And until next time, I will see you soon, and I will definitely see you in the comments. Bye.